Hey YouTube people, so I want to talk about the universal language, right? Like all my life I've heard that math is the universal language and that I don't necessarily believe that. I think it has a place, but I really don't believe that math is the universal language. What I mean by universal language is a language that spans the galaxy, right? It like that any intelligent life form, given enough time, is going to stumble across this language. Okay, the language that we use, the math that we use, all this stuff stems from human history, human tradition, and human culture, right? The numbers we use, they're essentially just symbols. Like your eyes view them as pictures, and we just designated them for numbers. You know, I don't think that's a universal constant. Now, what I do believe to be universally consistent is like the periodic table of elements and its respective isotopes, right? What are isotopes? Isotopes are different variations of a specific element. Every element has variations of itself, and each one is unique to itself. It has its own unique atomic weight. It has its own resonance. It has its own, I guess, where it fits in the visible, not human visible spectrum, but from infrared to ultraviolet to visible spectrum, like where it falls in the spectrum of light, like all these things, right? So the periodic table of elements, I feel, is like the alphabet of the universe, where physics and chemistry and math would be how those letters are put together to create a language. Now, numbers essentially, right? Geometry is extremely important. It's extremely important because that's consistent across the universe, I believe. You know, a circle is a circle everywhere. A triangle is a triangle everywhere. I could communicate an equilateral triangle by drawing it out. And I think visually you would understand it, right? Now, how I would communicate 3 times 3 to you, I have no idea, without using these symbols that we know. And what I mean by, like, if an alien came down and you had to communicate with it, you wanted to communicate with it, how would you do it? I don't think you would do it with math. It would be extremely difficult to do that. I think chemistry, physics, and the periodic table of elements would be much better groundwork for you to start building upon this language, right? This is a theory I've had for years, and I put a lot of thought into it. Nikola Tesla said that the universe consisted of resonance, frequency, and electromagnetism. And it's very interesting that he said that, and why I actually believe that is the case, and I find it interesting he said that because I'm gonna jump around a lot. Now, I'm gonna jump into Greek mythology. If we take Hades had a bident, which was essentially a two-pronged pitchfork. Hades and the other dude had a trident, a 3-pronged pitchfork. Zeus had his thunderbolt. Poseidon had a trident, and Zeus had his thunderbolt. So Zeus is the electromagnetism. One is resonance, one is frequency. You know, you put them together, and you have not just an amazing wonder weapon, but like it explains a lot. These pitchforks, what we even call them pitchforks. They seem to be, if I were to look at it from a technology standpoint, like let's say they were Zeus, Poseidon, Hades were aliens, and these were their weapons, right? What do they remind me of? They remind me of a tuning fork, like a tuning fork for, like, you know, that you strike it and it resonates at a constant pitch, so that you could tune things. Now, if you can direct a certain pitch and strengthen that wavelength, right? You can destroy any object, because everything vibrates at its own specific frequency and whatnot, you know. So I'm not recording you, Lady X. Now, if you could pitch everything, that lady kind of tripped me out. So when you put them together, if you can essentially make a giant tuning fork. That's a weapon. If you can dial it into a specific frequency, because everything vibrates, every element vibrates at its own frequency, right? Its own resonant frequency. If you can match that, you can break apart atoms. Like, you've seen videos of like when the wind matched that one bridge, and it just shook the bridge apart, right? Like Tesla had the earthquake machine, which was essentially the same idea. Human mythology has been writing about this for thousands of years, you know. Now, I don't think we've reached the point in time where I think we're now stumbling across this language. Here's where math I think is very important, or numbers especially. Math is the best way we have of communicating measurement or understanding measurement, right? So if we want to have, and we're getting better at this measurement process. We have metric and we have standard, and we can't even agree on that. But you know, we understand things like absolute zero, and we now have a measurement structure that starts off measuring temperature from absolute zero onward, right? We're becoming very much more we're becoming very more precise. That's not even a proper word. So we're developing a more precise form of measurement in all aspects. Now we're able to measure how many atoms thick a certain object is, right? We couldn't do that like 300-400 years ago, you know. And I think as time goes on and we enhance that, we're gonna stumble across this universal language that I do believe really exists. Elon Musk is trying to help us get there. At least I believe he's trying to help us get there. He's ventured into so many different things. He's one of the few people I kind of admire, just because he's doing so many different things at the same time. One of the things he's ventured into is Neuralink, right? So what is Neuralink? Neuralink is trying to get us to communicate with the internet instantaneously. Just high bandwidth, right? Like instant connection to the internet. So you have instant access to vast amount of knowledge. Like it's Matrix downloading Kung Fu instantly. It's like the movie Battlefield Earth, the dude sitting on the learning machine. You can have a PhD in physics, PhD in all the sciences instantly. You can become a massive egghead, right? So human potential is so far ahead of where we are currently. It's ridiculous. And I'm talking about on an individual scale. Like you can know 20 languages if you had put enough time into it. There are people out there that do. You could have studied for 50 years and became egghead in any field you want. You could have been a fucking rocket scientist. You could have been anything you wanted to, right? You could have been doing surgery on people's brains and stuff, you know. So human potential and where we are as individuals, we're nowhere near that potential. And I hope he's successful with the Neuralink thing, because that's gonna the rate of development is gonna be fucking crazy, man. We're gonna be developing at an unquantifiable rate, and I think we are gonna create this language that we're gonna stumble across this language, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great for us. Now, what am I missing here? There's something I'm missing here. In terms of creating this galactic language. So, I would love to know you guys' opinions, because maybe I don't know math. I know I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but I know I'm missing a lot of things that's there's specialists out there that are probably just like cussing me out right now listening to me. I know that there's so many different types of math. You know, we can venture into different dimensions and stuff, right? And math changes. You can have a triangle that, like, the sum of all its interior angles do not equal 180, right? It could be less, it could be more, it could. So math is goes pretty deep, right? But essentially we've just assigned stuff to that. That's kind of how I feel. Like, we've assigned this symbology to this so that we can understand something. And what do I mean by we will assign something? So, like, if I were to ask, like, what dimension are we in, you'd be like, we live in a three-dimensional world, fourth dimension being the time, right? Now, if you were a pilot, or if you were in a submarine, you would not be thinking in terms of 3 dimensions. You'd be thinking in terms of 6 axes, like video games, because you can go up, you can go down, you can go back, you can go forward, right? So you have 6 sides you can move to. So we can argue that, at least I can make an argument that, you know, we live in a 6-dimensional world, not a 3-dimensional world. And religion kind of touches on this subject, right? Like the idea of heaven and hell, going up to a place that you can't reach when you're alive, or going down that you can't reach when you're alive, right? Like, so it's still a 3-dimensional world. It's just a different definition to it. Yeah, I would love to know you guys' thoughts on this. So, yeah, like I said, everything is resonance. It's resonant frequency and electromagnetism and the periodic table of elements, math, physics, science, even alchemy. All that put together, I feel, and more put together, I think now we have the foundation to build a galactic language. Because one day, if we don't destroy ourselves, we're gonna span the entire galaxy. We're gonna fill it up with people, and we're gonna have to abandon culture and tradition, and we're gonna have to base everything off the sciences so that we can all communicate across the galaxy, you know? Yeah, what I know I'm missing something. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and whatnot, you know? Please do comment or reply. Thank you very much.